Hey everybody, Sean MP. You're watching the Armenian Quarter or No Other Land. I just wanted to come on here for a minute or two or 10 or 15, not just to congratulate Dr. Abdul El Sayed, or is it El Sayed? I don't actually know how to pronounce his name. I've never heard him speak and I've never heard his name pronounced. And my Arabic is not that great, but Mazel Tov, you know, Mabruk, right? You did it, my friend. And we did it, my friends. I was reading the typically Debbie Downer assessment in the New York Times today. And I read the New York Times because the New York Times is the only paper that still matters in this country, for better or for worse. And it's just amazing how the same exact pseudo argument about leftist Democrats, right? Um, and their supposed difficulty in winning general elections continues to be reiterated in the pages of the Times as elsewhere, even as people like Thomas B. Edsall, who I referenced in my latest written Substack post, which came out today, point to all sorts of countervailing evidence that that's not the case, right? The point that I would make, though, is that it doesn't actually make a difference whether leftist Democrats like Abdul win general elections, right? And by the way, in this context of leftist Democrats, how come James Tallarico has completely fallen out of the discourse, right? It's because James Tallarico is a white Christian, right? And Abdul is a brown Muslim, right? And so the point that I would always make is, number one, there's a larger standard than general elections, right? There's ideas, right? There's withstanding the onslaught of $90 million in opposition funding, right? This was the most expensive Democratic primary race in history. And as far as I'm concerned, AIPAC is dead. That's the victory, right? That's the victory. And if Democrats want to sell out working class voters, then they can just sell out the entire Democratic Party's history, right? I mean, the ironies here are never, ever, ever addressed, right? Why is it that Abdul and other leftist Democrats are winning college-educated voters more than they're winning working class, non-college educated voters, right? It's because people who are better educated actually know what's up from what's down. And so again, the ideas that are being promoted by folks like Abdul, by Bernie, by AOC, right? Medicare for all. If you're not for free healthcare, there's something wrong with you. Okay? As somebody myself who's experienced so many gaps in coverage and has had to face the anxiety around what happens if I get sick, right? In a very severe way, right? Fortunately, I'm in really great health. But why wouldn't you want healthcare for all for free, right? Why wouldn't you want a Green New Deal, right? Why wouldn't you want to redirect, billions of dollars in funding to the genocidal apartheid state of Israel and invest that money in working class people's well-being, right? In giving people the opportunity to go to college, not because college is supposed to give you a fruitful career, but because college is a way to teach you how to think and understand the world. Anyway, it's just ridiculous, right? That we're in this situation when the Democrats in the establishment have proven completely incapable of stopping Trump in his no holds barred second term, have proven completely incapable of stopping the Israeli state from its eliminatory project in Gaza and in the West Bank. Right? I mean, I also referenced Thomas Wright's refusal to acknowledge the genocide on legalistic grounds in his interview with Peter Beinart last week. I mean, again, college, people don't understand what genocide is. When you're trying to drive people out of their homeland on the one hand and trying to drive them literally out of existence on the other, that's genocide. And the Democratic Party would be in much better footing overall if they finally realized that issues like universal health care, issues like genocide, and genocide is a matter of health, right? It's a issue of health, as Physicians for Human Rights Israel has made clear, right, in a report that I referenced in my Substack today. I mean, we have to think about the long run, not the short run. And I, for one, am exhibit A in long-term thinking over short-term thinking. I wouldn't be here myself if people hadn't invested in me for the long run and if I hadn't invested in myself for the long run. So why can't we be thinking instead of what happened 10 years ago, right? In terms of Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton, which is referenced in this New York Times assessment today, this gloomy assessment, right? We have nothing to fear but fear itself, right? And what people are fearful of is running out of money, is getting sick and not being able to pay for healthcare, right? Is violence creeping into this country from abroad because this country continues to rain hell down upon populations of people abroad, right? I mean, why can't we all just get along? We can all just get along. And I'm going to leave it there, my friends. You know, if Abdul loses in November, the greater victory has already been won. If James Tallarico loses in November, the greater victory has already been won, right? If Kamala Harris had found a way to oppose the genocide in 2024, she would have won. And if the Democratic establishment hadn't sabotaged Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016, Trump would never have been elected in the first place, right? Talk about backwards and forwards, right? Instead of 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward, which is the primary strategy of the Democratic Party, it seems, why can't we make 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? Abdul's victory is definitively 2 steps forward. If he loses in November, that's just 1 step back, right? We'd still be ahead, those of us who care not just about human rights, but about human flourishing and well-being for all. I'm Sean MP. Peace in the Middle East. We're going to get there sooner or later. Ciao for now. I have to look down here to stop it.